Hello everybody, thank you for coming. This is going to be fun, and I promise not to talk too long because we want to leave plenty of time for Pablo Suarez from the Red Cross Climate Center and Boston University to lead us through the game. But I just wanted to say a few words about climate services. Mostly, what do we mean by climate services, and a little bit about what is USAID's interest in climate services. USAID's interest is in making sure that as we work with developing countries on their adaptation plans and their adaptation projects, that they have access to the information they need to make better decisions, that they can take on board what's happening in the environment around them and incorporate that information about those changes into their decision-making mental models. So what do we mean by climate services? We all know what a weather forecast is. You look at your phone, you look at the TV, you see if it's going to rain today or not, and you say, I'm going to take an umbrella. Or, why would I take an umbrella? It's not going to rain. And then you hope it's right. So with climate services, we're taking that concept of information that you can use to make a decision, and we're extending it forward in time. So the climate service is more than just a forecast. It's not just a set of numbers or a set of data. It's information that takes on board what the decision maker might need to make a better decision, and is relevant to the time frame of what they're doing. It's relevant to the decision-making processes that they engage in. The information needs to be relevant, it has to be accessible, it has to be useful. It cuts across different timescales. A farmer may want to know most what's going to happen in the next season. An engineer may want to, who's building a bridge or a building or a road, may want to know what's happening across several decades. And all of that needs to be fed into the design of the climate information product so that it's relevant to the decision maker. So climate services captures the production of information, but also the user needs, the communication of that information, the tailoring it so that it's useful and relevant to the decision maker. So with that, I'm going to stop and turn it over to Pablo, who's going to lead us in a series of games. Pablo.
Thank you. This is working good. Hello, everyone. My name is Pablo. I work with the Red Cross Red Crescent Climate Center. We support the humanitarian sector in understanding and addressing both climate change and extreme events, the humanitarian consequences of those. So when things are said by science, we need to ask the question, what do we do? Do we do something or not? And science puts the humanitarian sector outside our comfort zone. We're good at moving stuff. We're good at loving and understanding people. And you throw science at the Red Cross, not clear. So what I'm going to do through this hour or less is to put you a little bit outside of your comfort zone. In this event at the UNFCCC COP, you tend to show up to a session, you sit down passively, things happen up in the front, maybe you ask a question and it's over. Not the case in this session. You're going to have to engage. You're going to have to do stuff. Some of those things will seem not exactly relevant. Believe me, we will get to the point of why these things that we're going to do matter for climate services. First request, everyone who is on that side of the room, stand up and find a chair on this side of the room. Preferably make the rows of similar quantity of people. So we want to have a lot of people in the same place. Thank you. What we're going to do first, thank you. What we're going to do first is to play a game called Snap. Snap is an activity that it will help us understand what we think. It will help us visualize what we think. And by the way, folks from the online community, if you exist and you're watching this session, as I was told was possible, you can play this game in the second round in a few minutes. So here's what we're going to do. Everybody stand up, find a partner, and shake hands. You may need to move about the room to find a partner. Good. You're already interacting. OK, you're looking for a partner? Here, come with me. Let's illustrate. So shake hands. I know this fellow. His name is John. So we both have an imaginary deck of cards. Yeah? In my deck of cards, there's numbers 1 to 10. Same with you. We're going to shuffle. Everyone do the same. Imaginary deck of cards, please shuffle. Take the top half and swap with your partner. Shuffle a little bit more. Numbers 1 to 10, okay? You don't know what's the order. Now, look at this. We're both going to take the top card. We're going to simultaneously both flip the imaginary card and state the imaginary number out loud. Use this microphone. Ready, set, 7. Okay? He said 10, I said 7. Nothing happens, we keep going. If at some point we both say the same number, the first person to say snap takes all the imaginary cards and wins 1 imaginary point. The objective is to get as many imaginary points as possible. So you have to 3, 7, 4, 2, snap. 3, 8, 9, 4, 2, snap. Yeah. And we're going to play for 30 seconds or so. Ready, set, go. 4, 7, 4, 3, 7, 2, 8, 4, 9, snap. No, it should be fine. We're fine. Okay, okay, stop. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please, please. Shh. Can you tell your neighbors to stop snapping? Thank you, this was fun. It's hard for me to get your attention. You're doing something. Those of you who are outside, you can join if you want. You don't have to look from outside. So what happened? You were having to listen, and it wasn't so easy to do the right thing at the right time. Find a different partner and shake hands. Okay? Good. Now, very important. We are going to play an almost identical game. Instead of numbers, you have names of animals. Okay? Shuffle your deck of cards. Be ready, set, go. Okay, stop, please. Please tell your neighbors to stop. Thank you. So, exactly, it was much more difficult to hear the snapping, and a lot of you were like, like, no, come on, you know more than 10 animals, but you were clogged up, yeah? When I played this the first time, I was going zebra, lion, giraffe, and my partner was saying dog, cat, mouse, and we were not snapping for a long time until we started listening, and we tried to find a convergence zone. Go back to your original partner. If he or she is not around, find a new partner. And we're going to play the same game, only in your deck of cards. You don't have numbers, you don't have animals. You have words that you associate with the concept of climate services. Exactly. You showed up here to a session on climate services. You heard John speak very eloquently about climate services. You cannot use the word climate, and you cannot use the word services. Anything else is valid. Shuffle, shuffle, don't overthink it. Ready, set, go. Okay, okay, let's put an end to your misery. Please ask your neighbors to silence. Thank you. Very clearly, there was a lot of what the hell do I think about when I'm thinking about climate services. So we're going to invite you to form, half of the row over here, half of the row over there. Form teams of about 2, 3, or 4 people. At the end of the row, you should have under the chair a piece of paper and a pen. I want the person who takes the paper write your name, and then everyone else from your row, just your row, so you two are a team, and you two are a team, you have to write down in that piece of paper, you have to write in that piece of paper 3 words or concepts that you wish you had used during the snap game. We're going to have this piece of paper play with all the other pieces of paper they will be trying to snap. So what will you write, hoping that others wrote it? No talking to your neighbors. each end of the row, so each half row, you write one name and 3 words that you associate with climate services. Not climate, not services. Go, you have 2 minutes. Keep it with yourself. You have 30 seconds. You have 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stop. Everybody sit down, please. I'm going to collect the pieces of paper over here. So what we're going to do now is to invite Georgia and her team to enter these words into some special software. It's the world's premiere of this software. You know what you do. Thank you very much. In those papers, we have your collective thinking as of now about climate services. We'll do the same at the end of the session to see whether there's any change in your thinking or whether we completely wasted our time and you continue to think the exact same thing as before. All right. For those of you who are online, can you see that website on the screen, www.snapgame.org? If so, you will enter that website. You will enter your name, just first name or first name and initial, and then you will get to this place. Enter 3 words. For example, for animals, giraffe, zebra, black panther. You type one, enter, type the next, enter, type the next, enter. Georgia and team are doing the same for your papers, and then we'll see. All right. You already have been thinking a bit. Now we're going to get you to act. I am going to write something in this paper which really matters to all of you. By the way, folks on those chairs, I need to ask you to sit on this side of the room. Everybody, can you please find a chair and sit on this side of the room? What I am writing here is really important to you. Have you played the game Telephone, Broken Telephone, Chinese Whispers? We're going to play a modified version of that game. And I know you are anxious. The game is called Spreading the Word. It has to do with climate services. This is an illustration of what can happen. Someone says up to 35 millimeters of rain likely to occur in this region. Someone hears that and communicates up to 25 milliliters in Spain likely to endure if you're Norwegian. That is evidently wrong. You would never do that, right? So these are the rules of the game. Start becoming familiar with them. Are you fully aware of those rules? So here's what we're going to do. Person from row 1, person from row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5. Come with me, please. Other people, if you're in a very long row, you're very unlikely to win. You may want to migrate and find a really short row like that one, because otherwise they will win, I promise. Go find a winning province, find a balance. I mean it. Otherwise, you're in serious trouble. And why are you in serious trouble? This is Australian chocolate that I won yesterday. If there's a winning row, I will give up my reward. If no one wins, I keep it. Okay? So they are going to read this message silently. When I say ready, set, go, you go to your chair and you say to your neighbor this message or something equivalent to this message. If it says football and you say soccer, outside of the US, that's okay. Okay? So you come here and you say the message to him, but you say it like this. You don't say it like this. It's for him to listen, not for him to listen. So please don't peek in. Then you hear, pass it to him, pass it to her, pass it to him. He will write down what he hears and come to the front. And he will put it here. Okay? And the same with everyone. The first one to put the correct message wins the chocolate. Row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you have to write the message and number 1, the message and number 2, and so on. We will recognize by handwriting. Ready? You have 30 seconds to read this message.
I need glasses. Wait a second.
Here. Oh, no. Go for them. So this is very good. She doesn't have glasses.
In English, it is
Nobody can move.
600.
Yes.
600.
But this is not true. Lima's a desert.
This is your message. This is what you have to convey. You have 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. Go. It says
Okay.
no,
No,
only
but-
once.
No, it's over.
Yeah. The right number. Good. We're running out of time. Bring your messages. All right, last team. Either you bring it by the countdown or it's too late. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just in time. So the messages I got, and I don't have my glasses either. Team 1, there is a 40% chance of 600 millimeters of rain in the Lima area.
Good. That's good.
Team 3, which was the second fastest, 40% in Lima. Team 3, 44 or 99 million of chances of bring in Lima. There is 40% chance in Lima there will be 6 more leggers on loan. What is that? Or something like that. There are 4 beers you could win if you stay in Lima. Here is the real message. Okay, I'm going to read it myself. There is a 40% chance of more than 600 millimeters of rain likely to occur in the Lima area. Does somebody win the chocolate? If you think someone wins the chocolate, stand up. My question to you, do you think someone won the chocolate? Someone got the message correctly? If so, stand up. If someone got the message correctly, stand up. Why is nobody in the first row standing up? Which word did you miss? Right. The message was there is a 40% chance of more than 600 millimeters of rain likely to occur in the Lima area. They said there is a 40% chance of 600 millimeters of rain in the Lima area. So there are two problems, two reasons why I keep the chocolate. Reason number one, if it says 600 millimeters versus more than 600 millimeters, guess what? If it's a dam and the dam collapse point is caused by more than, then it's the difference between the dam collapsing or not. There's another important difference. Did anyone detect it? I'm talking about the message. No. God, this is awesome. I love it. I'll say it again. Detect the important difference. Real message. There is a 40% chance of more than 600 millimeters of rain likely to occur in the Lima area. Message. There is a 40% chance of 600 millimeters of rain in the Lima area. Likely. There's a reason why 40% already implies probability, but likely was there to emphasize the fact that it's not that there will be. Because otherwise people will understand when this travels, there will be, not there may be, likely because of probabilistic distribution. Yeah? Thank you for illustrating I keep the chocolate. I really like that part. So, a model of the usual experience. There's a forecast. I don't have the time to share what that forecast was, but it's a very important one, the one with those green pixels. Allegedly actionable information. And as John said in the beginning, in case you arrived late, climate services is not just information. It's also information that becomes action that accomplishes something good that without the information would not have been accomplished. We put the audience in a passive role, and the brains tend to be, I don't know, was that the message? We don't know what happens later. In my experience, when I talk and put people in the passive mode like I'm doing now, I could feel how I shrink people's brains. Yeah? We provide climate services putting people in the passive mode. People receive the message with a shrinking brain process, and not much good happens. That's why we're having this conversation. How can we do things better? More play. So another game. I'm not sure I want to give out this one for the winner, because now I'm attached to it. OK, the winning row will have a prize that I will determine later. You're a row, you're another row, you're another row. There may be a winning row. OK? The winning team is the team that at the end of the game has the most people standing up. Is that clear? So you want your team to have more standing people than the other one. If you want to change neighbors because of the past experience, feel free to do so now. OK. So you are not who you think you are. You are a disaster manager of the Red Cross. Somewhere, in Peru, in Kenya, maybe with the Pakistani Red Crescent, somewhere. And your team is your row. So you guys are all disaster managers in the same country. Maybe you're in charge of shelter, you're in charge of health, you're in charge of water and sanitation, and so on. Now, you will have a few, very few rounds, and you'll have to make decisions. If your decision is wrong, the game is over for you, but not for the team. Maybe someone else keeps playing. Everybody stand up. In this game, there are two kinds of things you can do. One is to assume there's no disaster coming up. You show your thumbs up. It means you're writing project proposals to the donors. You're writing reports to your past donor. You're changing the tires of a vehicle. You're running workshops for training. Show me your thumbs up. Everybody, please, show me that you're capable of doing this. Make it more visible. Don't do it this. All right, I need to see your thumbs up or not. If you're doing this, it means I think rains will be good. I will use this day as a normal day. Thank you. The other thing you can do is to assume that there will be a lot of rain, which you will represent like this. Can you show me? Good. That means that you're embarking in flood preparedness. You're pre-positioning relief items. You're alerting your volunteers. You're making sure that there's stocks, and so on. How do we know? if it's too much rain or not, I hereby give you, this is not a box, this is the probability distribution function of precipitation based on the past record. Okay? This side has a big cloud. All other sides do not have a big cloud. There's no weight, as far as I know. John, you didn't cheat, right? Yeah, there's nothing in here. It's not a perfect cube, so the probability is not exactly 1 in 6. It's up to you to decide. I will give you a countdown. Will you do this or will you do that? And then you have to make your decision. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. When I say stop, you're either like this or like this. Then I will throw this up in the air and it will fall. And if it falls like this, those who have an umbrella stay standing, everybody else sits down. If it falls in any other way, those who are like this stay standing, everybody else sits down. We're exaggerating consequences. You're fired if you made the wrong decision. Remember, the winning row is the winning row. So you now have 1 minute or 2 for your row to have a team strategy if you want one, but each one of you will make an individual decision. Go, you have 1 minute. We will play 2 or 3 rounds. How's that coming along? Excellent. Okay, go back to your seats. Make your decisions before the end of the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and do your signal. Stop. I don't see those of you who are, okay. So very little umbrella. No, sir, that was too late. No, you were not doing any of the two. Oh, you were doing that. Okay. Because what happens in the real world is that you're like, yeah, what should I do? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. Oh, maybe I'm going to do this. Well, guess what? The bank just closed. You cannot fill the tank of the vehicle. You cannot do what you wanted to do. Timing is important. Let's see what happens. No rain. If you're like this, you sit down. Now, we would normally have another round. Folks, shh. If you're sitting, you have become an advisor. Okay? You can give advice, but you don't have decision-making capabilities. Next year would normally be like that, but actually we're going to make it an El Niño year. Have you heard of El Niño? Here in Peru, especially in the north, in Piura, El Niño means that there's an unusually high probability of too much rain. The forecast would say, due to unusual sea surface temperatures conditions in the Pacific, equatorial Pacific, the probability of precipitation exceeding so many millimeters is now enhanced from 15% to about 50%. You're all falling asleep already just by me saying the actual science. That's how scientists communicate that. Okay? And no one knows what to do, and therefore the forecast goes underutilized or not utilized, and then no one does anything, and then if the flood happens, it gets people unprepared. In this game, you're lucky. I brought an El Niño impersonator. This is not a frisbee. This is the new probability distribution function of precipitation. I'm going to throw it up in the air. When it falls, if it falls like this, no problem. Good rains, better to go like that. Falls like this, too much rain, better to have an umbrella. You get it wrong, you sit down. Make your decisions. 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stop. Well, not surprisingly, I see much more umbrellas. Here there's half and half. Here there's half and half. Here there's 2 to 1. Yeah? This, which is completely normal common sense, is exactly what we're not doing. Exactly. So if you can help us at the Climate Center, at USAID, at IRI, and many other places to actually do this, because it's pretty natural. Yeah? Why don't we do it? OK, let's see. So you're all behaving as if this had 50% chance, right?
Correct.
This is the right one. If you're like that, sit down. So how many people standing? 2. Okay, you know what? I'm going to stop it now. There's a tie between this team, this team, this team. Oh, no, you guys win. Why did you win? Because you have the most populous area. Congratulations. I will figure out what I give you. Now,
We have 50% of our team standing. I think we win.
you may sit down. Now, stand up if you think the probability of this being rainfall is 50% chance. Yes, stand up if you think it's 50% chance. Only Haresh? Make your decisions. 5. I throw it 1,000,000 times. Will it fall 500,000 this and 500,000 that, roughly? Yes or not? Okay, not everyone is standing. So what do you think is it, the chances?
Well, it's one side, let's say this side is
Yeah.
more likely.
He says this side is more likely. Anyone agree with him? He agrees, he agrees. Anyone think this is more likely?
Oh, I don't know which one's more likely, but one is.
One of the two is more likely. Guess what? One of the two is more likely, but I won't tell you which one. Your mathematical model is wrong. There's aerodynamics at work. Okay, so you scientists suck. Even though it's a better than 1 in 6 like the normal one. Yeah? But in any case, there's potential for imperfect forecast information. All right, you may sit down. Thank you all for this experience. What we did through these 2, 3 playful activities is what we like in the Climate Center to think about when we think of climate services. Information has to feed into decisions which will have consequences depending on what you do, what others do, like the ministry, like the donor, like the community members, like your team members. And those decisions will have consequences that will be good or bad, depending on the rains as well. And those consequences should inform how you shape information the next time. This is what we like, and this is what games can really help. Games don't give you an answer. They help you formulate a question that then you yourself try to experience. For climate services, that's one of the things we like. Let's imagine, what if I do this, what if I do that? What if the information were portrayed this way or the other way? Okay? So with this, it's about 2:07. We have 23 minutes to go. I'm going to temporarily silence myself and invite John to come to the front, and we're doing it at the end of the so-called panel. So I will be back, but for now, over to John.
Oh yeah, do you guys want to come up here?
Sure.
Martin?
You want me as well? Martin should go. Oops.
So I thought what we're going to do now is think about what we learned in the game and what it means when you're trying to design a climate service. What are some of the pitfalls you can run across? And I love the telephone game. I particularly like 55 million chances of being in Lima. That's a good one. You couldn't really plan your day around that, though. There are 4 beers that you could win if you stay in Lima. So both of those are interesting comments, but they are not really actionable if you're worried about the dam that Pablo mentioned. So what we wanted to do, let me introduce these guys. Martin Van Alst is the director of the Red Cross Climate Center. Did I get that right? Haresh Bhojwani is the deputy director of the International Research Institute for Climate and Society. And Andy Jarvis is one of the directors of one of the themes of the CCAFs, the Climate Change, Agriculture, and Food Security Program of the Consultative Group on International Agricultural Research, the CIGAR or the CGIAR. I never can remember what your theme is called. Do you want to? The Climate Smart Agriculture theme. So I was going to ask these guys to comment on some questions that we pre-identified, and then hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for you guys to comment as well. There's no particular reason that they should know more than you. But some of the questions that I wanted to leave you thinking about, or get them to comment on, are what do you do to verify that the information that's getting communicated is good? If the weatherman went on in the morning on the morning news and said there are 4 beers that you could win if you're in Lima, you'd think he was crazy and you wouldn't know what to do about that. So is the information any good? Even if he says something that's close and sounds data-driven, still could be no good. Can you understand it? That gets more to the beer and the 500% chance of being in Lima, or the 50 million chances of being in Lima. Is it useful? And does the person that you're communicating this to, the person receiving the information, are they in a position to do anything about it? If you hear that it's going to rain today and you just don't have an umbrella, all you have to do is worry about when you're going to get rained on. It's still not actionable. If you're not in a position to respond, what do you do about it? So I thought I would start with you guys and some of your thinking in what you've done to address some of these questions or any other more interesting questions if you have them. And then we'll turn it to the audience for some more questions, and then we're going to play Snap one more time. How much time do you need for that? Okay. So we've got about 10 minutes, 10 minutes for comments and questions and so forth. Anybody want to go first? Don't all stand up.
Okay, so I can tell you about some of the stuff we're doing in Colombia and talk about this issue of information and is it trusted, is it good? So, I mean, as scientists, we can work in terms of the kind of the methods to develop these forecasts, but the problem is there's lots of people out there. We work with farmers. There's lots of farmers who've been burned before because they receive information, it's wrong. So there's a lot of skepticism and quite a lot of resistance. And it, you know, the first is kind of pushback on this. You know, that we know better. We have our ways of doing it. So something that we've been doing in Colombia with farmers is kind of co-developing climate information services with them, and that means we're using their information, data from their farm, or using inputs from them. So we're using this kind of big data approach where we collect information from farmers about what have they done in the past, how has it gone. We're combining that with other sources of information in terms of then the forecast. So these are simulations, model simulations then of forecasts. And then we're working with the farmer associations. So the kind of in Colombia, it's a kind of trade federation and farmer association to transfer that into information that, again, is recommendable, actionable for farmers on the ground. And then in workshops, we discuss it and agree as a kind of group on how to do it. So on what the kind of most appropriate course of action would be. So really what the kind of the whole issue of trust is by making the people in the end that you want to be making better decisions with this, the actual co-generators of that information as well, and mixing it with other sources. And so that's going very well, and the farmers are very, very happy there with this approach. We're piloting now in a few sites, and we're going to go national.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, the institute I work for, the IRI, actually started out as an institute that produced forecasts. And we soon realized that no one was actually using the forecast beyond other scientists. And so we've spent the last 15 to 20 years actually trying to figure out how to make this information useful. We believe it's useful. It can help people make better decisions. That dam manager, the disaster manager, the farmer that Andy works with, how can they make better decisions to use the appropriate seeds, to know when to plant, to know what strategies to adopt that year, to better manage the risks in their society and to themselves, to be winners in this game more often than losers. And so we've been working to bridge to those users. And so just in the few minutes we have, the issue I would ask you to focus on if you're interested in climate services is really trying to make sure that there's an integration all the way from using the best that science has to offer, and we welcome you to work with organizations like our own, all the way to the decision maker that has the risk of taking the right or wrong decision, and making sure that every link in that chain of information and action is as strong as it can be, as well informed as it can be, as enabled as it can be, and has the support necessary to make the right decisions. There's a whole process about getting this right, and I think John's going to put up at the end some links of where you can get more information, maybe reach out to some of us who've been doing this work for some time.
Thanks, Haresh. And we have indeed benefited from the IRI's work with us to co-develop these climate services for the Red Cross and Red Crescent network, where some of their information is now in our disaster management information system, for instance. One of the things I wanted to focus on, well, first of all, maybe I should say that many of the questions that you're asking, John, are not new to us in the disaster management world, where we've been facing some of these similar questions in early warning, where, you know, contrary to the regular daily weather forecast, where people at some point develop a sense for the skill of these things, you know, they know when, you know, in the Netherlands, for instance, the question is, do I need to bring an umbrella? How big is the chance it might rain? You know that the guys get it right enough, right often enough to be guided in terms of bringing an umbrella, but they also get it pretty often wrong, and you sort of build that in. So if it's mission critical, then you wouldn't necessarily put 100% trust. People have a feeling for that over time. With early warning for disasters, by definition, people don't develop such a strong feeling because those early warnings, by definition, only occur once every so many times. And I think that's true for the longer-term climate information that we're trying to communicate to people as well. They don't build up a natural trust because of their personal experiences quickly. So many of the challenges are similar, and it's partly about making the information understandable and usable, but it's also a lot about trust. In particular, trust in light of information people cannot easily verify themselves. And then the communicator is an important part of that. It's also whether that communication respects the sort of decisions people have to make with that information. So a lot about is about thinking about those decisions. And maybe a final thing that I'll leave there is that one challenge that we've seen very often in this is that there is a particular piece of information that this all starts with. So we start from the science side, we've got seasonal forecasts, for instance, 3 months outlooks. And this could be so useful for you. So let's go and bring that to you and then find what you can do with it. Well, in most cases, that piece in isolation is indeed an important piece of the puzzle. It could be very useful for us. But it only becomes really useful if you put it into a stream of different things over time. So one thing, for instance, in the disaster management world is we've developed a ready, set, go model, where a longer term trend is a ready signal where you start preparing some stuff. Then a shorter term or medium term forecast becomes something like set, now you're really ready to go. And then the short term weather forecast, the traditional early warning, is your go when you actually deploy. And it's often those sorts of chains of decisions after one another with different pieces of information coming together that then add value. And that's co-production that indeed needs to happen with those different links, building the trust as well as you play these games and get to know each other even on a personal level to some extent as well.
All right. We have a few minutes for some questions, and you can direct your questions to Pablo as well as these guys or me or each other. And it doesn't have to be a question, it could be a comment. You could have, if you've got the solution to all these, please do share.
All right, I'm Patrick Starr. I'm a Peace Corps volunteer working here in Peru, which is a United States agency. And I'm working right now with the World Food Program here at this event. However, I have a quick question, which actually could apply to all three of you, and it's regarding basically the distribution of this information. We're talking about the validity of the information, but how do you get it to the people who need it? When we talk about this climate services, we oftentimes talk about folks who aren't really worried about whether or not they're going to get wet on their heads, but whether or not their crops are going to grow, as you mentioned, Andy, and also if a tsunami is coming for them that day. Talking disaster management. So how do you distribute that to folks who may not have access to television or electricity or what you may have? Thank you.
Do you want to get several questions, or should we?
One at a time.
Okay. Shall I? Yeah. So one thing is, so you're really asking this question about the last mile, getting it to the most vulnerable groups in particular. One thing is that in many countries, the most vulnerable groups now have much more access to technology than people typically think. And so SMS-based messaging, even between communities, in certain river basins in Africa, for instance, we're getting communities upstream to send SMSs to communities downstream. And that by itself is already such a vastly more valuable early warning system, which had been just an individual volunteer taking his bicycle a couple of kilometers upstream to see whether an area that was a good predictor for flooding is now has high water levels. So just getting that information by SMS. And of course, you can also do that with all these other pieces. And certainly with smartphones, that option is increasing. The challenge of all those technological challenges is, channels, is that it doesn't yet link to the decisions. So this issue of trust and usability then becomes critical, and that's where it, in the end, still starts with dialogues centered around people's own decisions that they need to take with the information.
Along those lines, I think several of us have worked with a program in West Africa called RayNet, which is a FM radio network up in the desert in Niger. And they, with a combination of satellite radios and then FM broadcast stations out in what seems like the middle of nowhere, they put out messages. And they've started, well, this is a decade ago that I was familiar with it. They were also using shortwave radios to radio back into the capital, so that one evening I heard the radio, the weather report. It was of what had happened, not what was going to happen, from a place I had visited a few weeks earlier that was way up, and there was not a weather station there. But they had sort of daisy-chained the information down, and it got included in the national weather forecast. It also, I think this raises questions about the ethics of the distribution of this information. Who holds the radio or the cell phone or whatever, and how well do they share that information? There's a meeting next week that I think all of us will be at called the International Conference on Climate Services, and there's going to be a panel discussion on the ethics of this information. And I think Joy and I are both in that, and maybe some of the others. Other questions? And we've got, let's say 3 minutes, 1 minute? One more question. Who has a really good question or a very good comment?
Hi, my name is Susil from the IFRC, the International Red Cross. I just want to emphasize the importance of the extension officers, those who work between the communities and the agencies. Because, I mean, coming from South Asia or Africa, when you go to a community, even though they receive the information, there is lack of confidence or the ability to take decisions. They need some help, support, build confidence to take action. So the role of extension officers, those who can go to the communities, give a bit of advice, be with them, and support them to take decision is very important. So you can send the information, but nothing might happen because you need that confidence.
And I mean, I can just maybe complement that. In our experience that we've had in Colombia, we're using multiple means, any means possible to kind of send information out. We've been using radio, we've been using, cell phone, ICT kind of SMSs. We also got bulletins that you can download from websites and things. But the most effective by far has been when it's been extension workers, because there's a dialogue, it's face-to-face, there's more trust, and also it's a great means to kind of close the loop and get feedback as well, so that it's two-way exchange of information. You can't beat that. Unfortunately, it's not as cost-effective as other means, especially with ICTs and things like that. But whenever possible, I think it's by far the best. Yeah.
So maybe just add a little bit more. So there's two kinds of information. There's information people know what to do with when they get it. So there's a probability of there being, or the flood is coming, and you should get out of the way because you understand that. You've seen a flood before, you know what it is, you know what you should do. There's other information that's only useful to you if you have a means to make an effective decision with that. And that maybe requires us, in many cases, to actually go beyond, to actually really understand the decision that can be made and to work in that context to trigger that decision. And this can span a whole range of areas from things like, should I take out a loan this year? To, is this the year I need to rebuild my house? Is this the year I need to move out of this valley? Is this the year I need to connect with my neighbors and make sure we know what to do if something happens? There's a whole range of decisions. So we need to actually work in that space as well as the information space.
Okay, is yours a comment or a question? Do we have time? No? Let's do the final snap thing, and then if we have time, we'll take another comment.
Apologies, and we can converse when the time is over. So, can we get back to this one, if you're projecting? We've been talking, we've been playing, we've been thinking, we've been reflecting. Now it's time to document what we think. So everybody stand up, find a new partner, someone you didn't snap with before, shake hands, and very quickly play snap with numbers 1 to 10. All right, now you know.
Yes.
Good. Go for it. 3, 2, 1. If you say the same number, snap. Ready, set, go.
Five.
Dos, cuatro, snap. Okay, stop. Now, with the same partner you have now, take a piece of paper and write the 3 words you would write down if you were playing Snap on the topic of climate services. Okay? If you played Snap with climate services, would you say giraffe? Probably not. You'd say something else. Write 3 terms, like you did before, that you associate with climate services. You have less than 1 minute. As a pair, as a duo, yes. All right. You're about to be done. Thank you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stop. Let me very quickly show you a couple things. Can we project, please? So remember when we started, we did this, and this is the word cloud. Excuse me, can we please project? Hello? Oh, it's something about me? It's not a PowerPoint. Oh, I see, you told me so. Okay. You can read. This is from before the session. I don't know, let's walk around. Forecast is the biggest, data is the second biggest. Product development, carbon reduction, prediction. These are the words you wrote before. Forecast, data, information. Now if I take here, the first one is decision, participation. This one, decision, understanding, communication, farmers, yeah? Resilience, decision, confianza institucional, trust. We will make a word cloud, but this shows to me that something happened in our collective mind. And we will see also what happens with, if there was anyone looking through those and playing online, hopefully we made a difference also with what's happening over there. I thank you all very much for being part of this. I owe some of you some stuff. The winners will get, where are you? Of course I don't find it. Well, we have a book. Sorry? No, well, yeah, right, that would be good. So in any case, thank you very much. Thank you, USAID, for making this happen.